Today I'll be talking about the seventh and the final verse of Jesus Christ on the cross. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is actually no coincidence that this is actually the seventh verse, because in the Bible, this number 7 is quite significant. And you can see it around at least 700 times in both the Old and the New Testament. And in biblical numerology, you can say that the number 7 represents divine fulfillment, or spiritual completeness, or spiritual perfection. In simple words, it means that a process or the word or anything is full and complete. And let's take a few examples. We all know that the creation of the world by God was done in 6 days, right? And on the 7th day, he finally took a rest. And to the Israelites also, he told that on the 7th day, you have to take it as a Sabbath day. And there are so many more instances like that. Now, moving back to the final verse, you can say that these are Jesus' last words on the cross. And last words carry a lot of meaning. They carry weight. They are something to be remembered by, right? And now, what exactly did it mean? When Jesus muttered these words in his desperation, in his pain, he meant that his suffering was finally over. And the reason why he was put into this earth by God. The reason why he was put into this earth was because he had to preach gospels, he had to save people, he had to bring eternal salvation for people, was finally done. The debt of the sin of people was over, and now he could finally rest. And from this verse, from these 7 verses, as mentioned by all the people who went before me, there are so many lessons that you can learn from it. But I have pickpointed 3. And the first one being, pickpointed 3 on the basis of dissecting it word by word. Now, the first one being relationship. So, Jesus, when he was on the cross, he began and ended his time on cross by uttering the word Father. In Luke chapter 23 verse 34, he said, Father, forgive them. And now he closes it with, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is actually very beautiful to look into it, because in the 4th verse, he mentioned, my God, why have you forsaken me? As he carried the full weight of humanity's sin and separation on his shoulders, it is at that moment that he felt his pain and the closing silence, the crushing silence of God on him. It was at that moment he said, my God, and not Father. And now we have to look into how there's a progress of how from 4th verse to the final verse, you can see that he has changed his verse from my God to Father. You can see that the distance between them, the distance that he might have felt in that desperation, is actually closed. And the intimacy between the Father and the Son has returned. Even after going through so much pain, so much emotional abandonment, so much injustice, he still calls our God his Father. And this simple one word of Father, this simple yet powerful word, Father, gives us so much lessons to learn from. That, even during the darkest moments, even when you feel abandoned, when you feel crushed by all the people that you might love, even when sometimes you might not feel his love, he is always there. He is always going to have your back. And you could take this as an example of when a child is angry with their parent. When his or her parent is yelling at them or correcting their mistakes, and suddenly the child might feel, oh, this is not okay, I don't feel so close to them. But in the end, the love and devotion that the parent and the child have for each other is always going to stay. It is not something that can go away forever. And in the same way, in fact, 1,000,000 times more, this is the love that God shares for us. His arms are always open, and above everything, like Jesus Christ, every single one of us is a child of God. Because as Christians, sometimes along the way, we forget what our main purpose is. Like, along with performance, Okay, the performance is very important, but sometimes we forget to build a deep connection, a deep identity with God. And in the end, we forget that sometimes we are children of God. Like Sachin Uncle said in his second verse, I'm pretty sure that most of us over here are going through trials and tribulations, which may not be big, which may be big. It could be the death of a dream, it could be a loss of a loved one, it could be abandonment, it could be anything. And there could be that small, tiny moment, that small creeping thought in your mind where you think, okay, God, are you still there? Am I still yours? This verse, this seventh verse, and these all the seven verses is proof that God will forever remain with you. That yes, you are still His. The pain does not cancel the promise. The silence does not void the relationship. Because even in suffering, our deepest identity remains that we are children of God. Now, the second lesson that I pondered upon was about placing it all in God's hands. Well, the first lesson was based on the relationship with God and our identity. Now, the second lesson is based on what are you supposed to do with this identity? What you have built the relationship. Now, what else are you supposed to do? Just like how Jesus did, it's all about the act of letting your worries go and placing your trust in the hands of God. Hands actually represent action, strength, and protection. And throughout the Bible, you can see that the God's hands, are symbolic to His divine creation, to His protection, to His comfort. Because in Isaiah 49, verse 16, God says, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hand." By saying specifically into your hands, God is saying, let go of your worries. And Jesus is letting go. Jesus is surrendering. But don't get me wrong, He's not surrendering into death. He's not surrendering into defeat. He is actually letting go into our loving arms, into the loving arms of our God. And He knows that the security of the Lord is unmatchable. It is 100%. It will not live up to any security, and nobody else will be able to touch you as soon as you let your worries into the hands of the Lord. And in the everyday hustle and bustle of life, sometimes we might forget about what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we might try to control our problems, we might try to control our people, our promises, everything. And I actually have a personal testimony on that, because I had a very similar instance in my life. After I finished writing one of the hardest and recent ACCA papers, I had no hope of passing it, because I left around 20 to 30 marks because I didn't have the time to finish it. It was a paper out of 100, and we need 50 marks to pass, and basically my paper was out of 70 because I left 30 marks. I felt hopeless. I felt I did not have any faith in me at all, because I felt all the sleepless nights, all the hard work had gone to waste. But after I left my exam hall, all I could think of was over and over again is a popular meme that is very apt in this context. And I'm pretty sure that my friends over there might get it. It says, "Jesus, take the wheel." And by God's grace, at 4:30 a.m. of 14th of April, when I saw that pass mark with 60%, all I could think of was Jesus did actually take the wheel. He was the driver of my life, and I did everything I could from my perspective, and I am so glad that I let everything else remain in His hands. We grip tightly, we try to manage, we try to control every single aspect of our life, but that is not what we were meant to do. Like Jesus, we are called to release, not just in death, but in our everyday lives. Now, my third and my final lesson that I could think about, I could reflect upon from this verse, is how surrender is strength and not weakness. So this is the most powerful and the last part, which says, I commit my spirit. And even though it was written in accordance to the Lord, almost 80 centuries back, Jesus is not exactly collapsing to that. I think we should all know that Jesus did not give himself in. He willingly let himself into he willingly let his spirit into the hands of the Lord. He gave himself into the hands of the executioners, and now, exactly in the same way, he is also going to be giving his spirit, his life, into the hands of the Lord. Because this is quite essential to know. And earlier in John chapter 10, verse 18, he says, no one takes my life from me, but I lay it down on my accord. In life, he had always submitted to his father, and even in death, he plans on doing the exact same thing. And I think we all grew up with the thought that perhaps giving up is quite a negative thing. It's something that's seen as something you shouldn't do, which maybe I agree, maybe you should try as much as possible. But when God comes to you, when God tells you in your prayers, in your heart, that child, it is time to let go, leave it all upon my hand, all you have to do is just actually give up in the end, because God has better solutions for us as compared to what you do. God's judgment is always going to be better than your own judgment. When you commit your spirit, you're saying to God that, God, listen, I know and I trust you completely. I know that whatever I'm doing is not enough, and I know that yours will be more than enough. I know you have better plans for me. I know that you are good even when life is cruel. And this type of strength, this type of giving up that Jesus had to do, that's something we should also have to do. It's not very easy. It's something you have to build up over and over in your time. It's something you need to let go of your control, or you have to relinquish of your control. And it's quite actually. It is resolute, it's not flashy, and it is something that we should always live by. So, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. With this, the reunion that Jesus had with his Lord God just doesn't end his earthly mission. He leaves us with multiple lessons in life, like the lesson of love, the lesson of trust, the lesson of surrender, the lesson of identity. So many more lessons that we all should live by in our